Okay, got it.
Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. Together, we are bringing you ideas about education, entrepreneurship, and relationships that are both inside
And outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Christina on Facebook.
And leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Pam. Pam is a classically trained homeopath practicing for over 25 years. Her practice is located in La Mesa, California. She sees people in person and also works with people all over the world virtually. She works with all ages, babies through older adults who experience many different health issues. She especially enjoys working with children and families. Welcome, Pam. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here and to talk with you both and about homeopathy. Yes.
Yes, exactly. That is one of my very first questions. Tell us what you do and a little bit about the passion. Why did you get started?
Yeah, actually, before we go into that, a lot of people might actually not know what homeopathy is. So let's talk about what that is and then go into her questions.
Well, I think a lot of people do know the word, have heard the word homeopathy, and they can connect it or think it means natural, which it does. It's a natural form of medicine. Yet they don't know that it's its own specific form of medicine. It's been around since the late 1700s, developed by a German physician, Samuel Hahnemann, who was very disillusioned in how medicine was practiced at that time. And he, I'm not going to go into his detail, but he came up with homeopathy in a way that using remedies or medicines that could be healing, but they actually killed people, like mercury at that time was used for syphilis. And he kind of came up with using these types of medicines in a very gentle form and the way that they're made in a homeopathic pharmacy. So I know I'm sort of just bouncing around. Homeopathy means similar suffering. So it's really based on the principle like cures like, giving the person what they're experiencing, the similar in the form of the homeopathic remedy. So that's the like cures like. And homeopathic remedies are made, and homeopathic pharmacies a very specific way that they're made. And they are made, there are over 4,000 of them. They're made from plants and herbs. They're made from the periodic table, like minerals and metals. They're made from mammals, from sea creatures, from birds, from snakes, from insects. And so like for the mammal, the milk from a mammal, like from a dog, is made into a homeopathic remedy. So again, they're made in a very specific way. I have known of homeopathy for over 30 years. I happen to have heard about it when my children were very, very young in a La Leche League play group. And I thought, what is this? Was never comfortable about taking medication. I did some reading. I took some classes locally to where I lived. And then 3 years later, I enrolled in a program that was out of England. I did not go to England, but it was a program that was offered to people all over the world. Okay. And started to just really learn. When I started the program, I looked at homeopathy in a very allopathic way. And what I mean by that is that, okay, so you have this pain. So instead of taking an aspirin or a pain medication, you take this homeopathic remedy. Okay. Well, that's not homeopathy. Again, it's that very much to the individual, what the individual is experiencing, what their pain is like, what their symptom is like, and giving the similar in the form of the homeopathic remedy. So again, I'm repeating that homeopathy means similar suffering. So somebody could take a homeopathic remedy and not do anything because It's not similar to them. It's not, so that's, yeah. And so, but we see on labels, homeopathic or homeopathy. Well, if it's not similar to you, it's not going to help you do anything. It's not going to hurt you, but it's not going to help you. So I wanted to learn more, and I did this program out of England and then decided I wanted to practice. I've done another program since then, and I also continue to take webinars. I feel like there's such a need for homeopathy. And it is practiced all over the world, and was very widely practiced in the States in the 1800s. medical schools and hospitals were both allopathic medicine, which is Western medicine, and homeopathic medicine. And homeopathy got pushed out with the formation of the AMA and pharmaceutical companies and things like that. There's no money in the homeopathic remedies. Here, I'll show you. You might, this is what you might see like at a Whole Foods.
Arnica. That's arnica.
That isn't arnica, but this is what arnica, what you see.
Yeah, the little tab.
Right. So Arnica montana, which is made from a plant, is often the remedy that introduces, especially moms, to homeopathy. And it's not only for first aid, for falls and bruises and traumas. Somebody might need it for a chronic condition that they, feel that they're bruised all the time. So not to kind of pigeonhole that a remedy is just good for this.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And then I order from pharmacies in England and also in Northern California, and they come like that.
Okay. Yeah.
When I had braces, I actually would put arnica on the top of my braces so that it would slowly dissolve, because it would it would ease the pain. It wouldn't take it all away, but it just made things a little more comfortable. So
right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's wonderful, because that arnica is wonderful after you've had dental work, because you have that awful sore bruised feeling. And often somebody will say, needing arnica is, oh, I'm fine. This is after an accident or some trauma, but don't touch me, So it's like each remedy has like this picture, has a list of symptoms, but it has this picture or of the remedy, but that's what the person would have, that same picture.
Right, exactly.
So like cures like.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you go to like a Whole Foods or a New Seasons, one of the nature stores, or in a more natural organic kind of stores, they have this whole great big wall of different things that they call homeopathic remedies, for people who have done a little bit of research or whatever. So
right.
So thinking about that when we try to work with families, because one of the things we really want to focus on with our show is that how would maybe a family know? I mean, granted, hopefully they're using their common sense, but when is it better to follow maybe a homeopathic path or maybe a Western medicine kind of path? I mean, there's no clear thing, but kind of give us a couple tips.
Yeah. Well, I'm not an MD, and I don't diagnose, I don't do a hands-on exam. I'm not trained that way. I'm trained as a homeopath. People that have come to me have seen their physician. They might have a health issue. They're under treatment, taking certain medication, not necessarily feeling that they're any better.
Right.
So they come to homeopathy. I cannot tell somebody to go off medication. It may be that they don't need it as we're doing homeopathy. And I would say, have it monitored with your physician. Homeopathy can be used along Western medicine. It kind of depends on how you start to think about your own healthcare and your family's healthcare.
Right.
There's always benefit in having somebody, a physician, look at something like in the ear or whatever, and you're getting information. And then you make your choice. Do you want to follow what they recommend, which may be, whatever it is, or go in another route. But getting that information always is helpful. And I don't know if this is answering your question. I kind of really leave it up to the individual. I'm very much about choice, that people know that they have choice in terms of their healthcare. I'm obviously biased towards homeopathy. Yet I feel that if they need to do what's comfortable for them. I think I had a call. I get calls for different health issues, for different things that people are looking for. And there was one woman recently that I think she really wanted more of what a Western doctor does, of not only an exam, but something like that, and wanting to know what was the reason why, what was the diagnosis. And that's not what I do as a homeopath. Yet a Western doctor or somebody else would do that. And then she could, if she decided, to also see a homeopath.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Over the years, I actually became less and less enchanted with Western doctors, because every time I went in for something, it was like, oh, here, take this pill. Oh, here, take this pill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I would be on something that worked, they would say, oh, the insurance company doesn't support that one anymore. So now you have to do this other thing.
Wow.
And it got to the point where it's like, I didn't trust that what they were doing or what they were offering worked for me. So I just basically stopped taking all sorts of Western medication, and I wouldn't even take aspirin or Tylenol or anything like that. And so I had to start finding more natural ways to do that. I didn't work with a homeopath. I just kind of tried to figure that out on my own, and there was a lot of hit or miss. So how does working with a actual homeopath help shorten that time span? How would working with you help get that narrowed down quicker?
I'm not sure if I understand what you mean shortening and
So
narrowing
like
down.
when I was hurting, I would like do a Google search for, oh, what can I take for this besides Western? And I would like get like, oh, try this. And I
Okay.
would try it for, a week or two, and, not necessarily knowing what I was doing and not necessarily seeing if there was a difference. So I was like missing something in the middle of what I should be expecting. So I would say, oh, take this, but I didn't know what it was supposed to be doing this.
Right. Right. Well, I think what it is that when you come to see a homeopath, and it's called taking the case, in a way, what you're doing is treating yourself.
Right.
I have these symptoms and I go online and I read, and then I find, oh, this is helpful. And sometimes it can be. When somebody comes to see a homeopath, there's taking the case, and it's looking, again, I don't do a hands-on exam. There might be a homeopath who's also an MD, and they would do a hands-on exam. But the first thing I ask is, why are you here? What's bothering you?
Right.
And I write down everything that they say in their language, because the way they say things, the words that are used are descriptive of the person. So I'm following what they're saying. They may talk about the pain, what the pain is like, use a certain word. I'll ask, well, what side is it on? What makes it worse? What makes it better? When did it start? What was going on when it started? Is there anything else that happens physically when you have that? I will ask about dreams. I'll ask about fears, about past medical issues, family medical issues. So what we're doing is like we're putting together a puzzle, to get this total picture of somebody. And like two people could come in with sounding like that's a similar, something that's bothering them, a similar complaint, yet there are differences. So it's really finding out about the individual and how they experience it. So that's why, I don't know if I said this to you, Christina, like over the last several years, I saw about 5-6 children who had warts.
Okay.
And they each needed a different homeopathic remedy.
For the same thing, a wart.
Yeah, but it's not all the same.
Right.
Because it's a different location. It's a different way they feel it. It's a different hardness or softness or texture or whatever, and then they themselves of how they are, maybe other symptoms or other things that bother them. So that's sort of like saying that it's not like, oh, you have warts, this is what you do.
Got it. Exactly.
So that's
when you said it was like putting puzzle pieces together, my brain went to private detective. You're just like going in and searching out all these different things.
Yeah, and that's why, I am always asking questions, and I do that in my life anyway. Like because my job is really to understand what this is like for this person.
Right.
And they might say, well, people will say, well, because I'll say, well, can you tell me more about what that feels like? And they're looking for more words and like descriptive words. And it's not that I'm looking for that. I'm looking to really kind of understand. And I know this is subtle, what that pain is like for them. And when they use that word, or what that emotion is like for them, like anger, or when they're afraid of something. So it's also, it's like I'm wanting to get into their world,
right.
Not in a judgmental or advising way, but to be able to understand it, to then give the similar in the form of the homeopathic remedy.
Well, and you, as you were talking and describing that, it reminded me that, you know, a lot of time we're thinking of a physical thing, a hurt, a pain, a growth or something, but then you also start talking about what was happening around those time, what kind of emotion. So then bringing back the physical as well as the emotional on how those work together.
Exactly, exactly. And, you know, because I'll ask, as I said, like, well, what was happening at that time that this started, that this even this physical complaint? And people don't always make that connection. Well, you know, I had this major event happen in my life, or I had this fall, or I lost somebody that was so dear to me. And they think, well, how does that relate to this? Yeah.
Yeah, so it brings in that sense of mindfulness and also self-awareness, so being able to look at yourself and through those processes, that brings more things to light, like you said, that can then be addressed as well as just the physical symptoms. So
Yeah. And then, but they might not be aware of it, you know, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, that it's just, I'm always asking about that. And then, although it might be, oh yeah, I remember that happened. Like this little boy who I'm working with right now is really anxious and about anything new happening in his life, and that he lost his grandfather about 1.5 years ago. And he separating from his mother has been really difficult. In fact, it's hard for him to get out of the car to go to school, and he's 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
He's very afraid that he's going to he saw somebody throw up in class, and he's afraid that he's going to throw up. So there's all these kind of anxiety and fears. And anxiety is huge. Like when somebody says, oh, I feel anxious. So I'll ask, well, what does that mean? How do you feel it in your body? You know, what is that like? So we've done one remedy for this boy, and it's helped, yet he still has, you know, it's not maintained. So we're just about ready to change to another remedy, because what happens is we sort of get a deeper understanding. It's almost like layers.
Right.
And you know, it's like this, actually, it's over this weekend that we did the follow-up, and it's like, oh, this new remedy that we're going to use is I thought this is going to really help a lot. But it's seeing how that something happened in his life, this loss of a grandparent, and then maybe seeing that somebody was sick, you know, throwing up, that kind of, you know, it's not that there's an analyzing, but that this is what happened, and then it triggers his sensitivity. And we all have our own sensitivity to things, and then what we're susceptible and how we manifest symptoms.
Exactly. So how he connects those, he might connect those things differently than somebody else connecting those.
Right. And it's not intellectual, and it's not like he's thinking it out, but it's just how his whole vital force and energy does this, how he responds, you know. Right. And what we want to do is quiet it down so that he, you know, you think that with children, you know, with their behaviors, or if they don't feel well, that inside they're feeling so inside, you know, and then this is how they show it through whatever physical symptoms or behaviors. And we want to kind of quiet that down so they're feeling better.
Exactly. And being a teacher for so many years, you know, tons of kids come through my classroom, and, you know, I would have to have the conversations with the parents, you know, your child can't control their emotions, or this child is so active that they can't sit down to focus, kind of thing. And so we had those focus discussions. And I, as a parent, was never big on medications either. So I would always try to send my parents down that path. Like, can you check on their diet? Can you check on allergies? Could you check on something else before you take them to the doctor for the ADHD medication, kind of thing, right? I always, you know, I had to say, do what's good for your family, but can we check some of these other things out? Right. And so how many of those kinds of cases, or do you get those kinds of cases where the parents are actually looking for the alternative to the pharmaceutical or the ADHD?
Yeah. Yes, but I think they also, some of them are on pharmaceuticals, I have to say, you know, and again, I can't tell somebody not to.
Correct.
Yeah, I want to bring up about the food though, because I always ask about, to anybody, child or adult, what is there any food that you crave or have an aversion to or a reaction to? And again, it's a piece of the puzzle. And, you know, parents always want to be feeding their children a good diet, but yet children crave something. And this boy that I'm telling you has a very strong craving for sugar.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying to the parent, well, don't give them sugar. I'm not saying change their diet. Yet this is a piece of the puzzle that leads to the selection of the remedy. And so as they are feeling better, they're going to not be eating as much sugar. So if that, does that make any sense? You know, so yeah, so it's more, I don't know how to say this. It's not, because I won't recommend a diet, you know, that's not my area. Yet that's a child, and I know I'm repeating myself, is eating so much more of something that we don't want them to, is a part of, again, that part of their totality. And we take it into consideration when choosing the homeopathic remedy that's similar. Yeah.
I love it. So one of the things that we kind of talked about a little bit, because Herb's experiences in the world, you know, he's a business owner, an entrepreneur, very creative at times, but he also loves to dabble in those things that kind of are called woo, right? And a lot of people, when they hear woo, they're like, oh, you know, that's the way far out kind of things, right? But then other things that aren't so far out are also kind of considered woo. So we were going to ask you kind of a question of, you know, is homeopathy part of this woo kind of world? Is it more traditional? Is it more, what do you think about that? Or what can we help our parents understand?
What would you want to talk to parents about if they think, oh, homeopathy, that's in that weird woo world, and I don't want to go there?
Yeah, I think some people do think that. I know I had somebody years ago a friend who said to his sister, oh, what she does, homeopathy is out there. You know, so I mean, he didn't use the word, it's woo-woo, but it's out there. It is, but you know, when you think back when it started, when it was developed in the 1700s, and MDs were the ones who were practicing homeopathy. You know, and what it does is that looking at Western medicine is very much that looking at the germ, like at the physical, and homeopathy is looking at the vital force, the vital energy, the chi, you know, the energy of the person, in the sense of why, yes, they could be exposed to a bacteria, but yet they don't become ill because they're healthy. So is that woo, you know, this, you know, Western Chinese medicine or acupuncture, or, you know, that energy thing? Because homeopathy is an energetic form of medicine. The homeopathic remedies, you know, I said they're made in a very certain way in pharmacies, in homeopathic pharmacies, at a certain potency, which is the 12C potency. And that means it's been, and I'm saying this so quickly that this doesn't mean very much, they've been diluted and succussed, which means shaken vigorously and then kind of banged or knocked against originally a Bible 100 times at the 12C potency. I'm sure I've lost you. There's nothing left of what it's made from. It's no longer made from, like I told you, that mercury was used back when Hahnemann was developing homeopathy. And yes, people were better from syphilis, but they were dead, you know, because it's poison. And he came up with this way of using these substances that are poison, making them so that they're gentle in their healing and can heal and not kill somebody. And he came up with this diluting and potent and succussion way. And so it's an energetic, it's the energy of that substance. So that's pretty woo, isn't it? You know, I remember my dad saying, like, well, how could it be that the more you dilute it, the more stronger it is?
Right. That doesn't quite.
Right. And but physics is like that. So it's, you know, and then the thought too is that we become really ill on the energetic level, and then it manifests physically, whether emotionally or physical symptoms or mental symptoms. So we have to, yes, heal physically, but we have to heal on that energetic level too. Yeah. And things are passed from one generation to another, our tendencies, our susceptibilities. Well, that's energy, isn't it? Although it's genes, I know it's genetics.
Right.
Yet it's still this energy. I do want to say before I forget, there's a very good book called The Impossible Cure by Amy Lansky. And she and I went to school together, and she wrote it in the 90s, and she has a very good explanation of homeopathy. in the first half. And then the second half, she talks about her son who had a mild form of autism and how homeopathy helped him. And it's just a wonderful read.
Just sounds good, interesting. Sounds awesome, because there's a lot of parents who have these kiddos who are like kind of a mild form of something. So the doctor doesn't want to do anything, but then it's like, well, no, how do we help them? Because there's still something going on with them.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, getting back to like that boy that I'm seeing, that, children show it in their behavior and their reaction to things, not only if there's a physical symptoms. And we want our children to feel better,
Right.
And we see and we're observing and we know as parents that something is not right. Yet we might not be finding the way to help them, and I do think that parents know, they know their children.
Yeah, well, I've really seen the medicine world change over the years, and allopathy, I kind of consider it like triage medicine. So if I break my arm, I'm going to go and have that set. If I have like a severe disease, I'm going to go and try and get that fixed right away. But if I have like some sort of a chronic symptom, then allopathy doesn't necessarily deal with that very well. They say, oh, you're having this, try this pill, try this pill. And they don't really spend the time with you to try and figure out all of this other stuff that might be wrong. And so sometimes when they give these pills like to an anxious child, they're just covering up a problem instead of actually trying to figure out what's wrong. So I love how much time you actually spend in the investigative work you find to what's happening. So instead of just putting a Band-Aid over a problem and pushing it down the road, you actually start to work at trying to find a reason and a why and to ease the symptoms along the way. So I'm not really sure that there was a question in that, but I just really wanted to kind of point that out and see what you thought about that.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because it's not only, sometimes we meet for that first appointment, which could be an hour to 2 hours, and then we do a remedy, and sometimes something happens. That's our intent, and sometimes not really anything happens. And they come back for a follow-up, and it's sort of, then we get kind of a deeper understanding of what they're experiencing. And I know people, sometimes they don't come back for a follow-up, like maybe it didn't do anything, or maybe it did, so they don't come back. But I always look at, like this boy that I was telling you about, he did do well to a point with this first remedy, but then coming back in and talking more, and not that there was anything all new said, but yet there was more like a deepness to it. And it's like, oh, okay, it's like, what is that word? It's sort of like, just, I'm not thinking what the word is, but it's like really knowing more about this person, the patient. And by having that time to know more helps to then get to the remedy. I've worked with this one woman who had extreme sensitivity to sound, and she knew when it happened, to the point that she was wearing earplugs and earmuffs.
Oh my
When
golly.
she would be with anybody, she couldn't work anymore. She couldn't listen to music. She couldn't go out and go for a walk. She couldn't spend really time with her children. It was extraordinarily painful. She had had a year of doing Western medicine, not helped, came to homeopathy, completely new to homeopathy. And she signed up for a package, which I don't have that many people do that. So we had 6 months in a way of that package. And the first remedy didn't do very much. And I have to say, the appointment was on Skype, and she had me turned off. So her turned off. So we were reading what it was translated. It was that sensitive. Like, it wasn't like you and I talking now and hearing each other. First remedy didn't do very much. The second remedy didn't do very much. The third remedy, and again, we would talk, and she would say some of the same things, but she would say more. And we did the third remedy and did a follow-up, and she said, when I wash my hands now, it doesn't hurt my ears. And I thought, oh, yeah, something was happening, and was subtle. So we did that. We stayed with that remedy, and it's not something she took every day. It was as needed. It isn't something you take every day.
Yeah.
And we would do follow-ups. We increased the potency, the strength. She, now they actually moved. She couldn't have moved. I mean, now she still has a little bit of sensitivity, but she can listen to music. She can go outside. She can do activities with her kids. As I said, they moved to another state, and she flew, and she said, I got my life back.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's amazing. And we've done another remedy. And then we've done another one. We, kind of keep going back. I sometimes do what's called concurrently do remedies. Like we do one, and then maybe a week later we do another one, but then we might come back to that first one. Because again, it's sort of like removing layers.
Yeah.
There's things that are passed down to us from generation, that sensitivity, that susceptibility. We kind of want, by removing that makes us healthier. So she has done, and I see her son now, but she has done really, really well.
That's amazing.
And to say too, she was in a support group and she told people what the remedy was, and they all tried it, did not help them.
Yeah.
And they did come to see me, but yet they didn't continue, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So there's not just like one remedy for this particular, like the warts thing.
Yeah. The words that kept popping into my head was rapport and then intuition. As you're building a more and more rapport with them, you get more and more intuition, more and more connection.
Right.
So you can find those little subtleties that are popping out.
Exactly. That relationship and trust and rapport is I think it's, it's important with any kind of who you work with, in any service, type of profession. Yeah.
So I do some coaching as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things so I do psychedelic integration coaching and psychospiritual coaching. And one of the things that we find really helpful is letting the people talk, letting them know that they're being heard. And so there is so many issues that just by being heard and seen and acknowledged that, hey, yeah, this is a problem that I have. This is something that's going on. That realization or recognition can help them start healing themselves. So one of the things that we say in the medicine work and that with psychedelics is that it might be something that you take, but that you are the medicine.
Exactly.
So that conversation, the deeper conversations, and then the trying stuff says, hey, you know what? I'm valuable. I am worth being worked on. And that also adds to their own healing in a way as well.
Yeah. And I've had people say that just having that space to say what's bothering me. And, I've had parents of an older child say, you really heard me, I did. Now this is the woo-woo. I'm going to tell you a woo-woo incident. Okay. Since you brought it out, it was several years ago. A woman came in who had chronic diarrhea for a year. And did Western medicine and nothing helped. Came in, it was a Monday night. It was an evening appointment, told me what was going on, took the case, it was almost like a 2-hour appointment and all. She came back Thursday to pick up the remedy. And she said, since I saw you on Monday, I have not had the diarrhea. And I said, oh, okay. I said, don't take the remedy.
Okay.
Let me know how you are in a week or so. She did, and no diarrhea. She came in for a follow-up like a month later, no diarrhea, never took the remedy. And then she sent me a postcard like 3-4 months later, because the whole thing was like, and she's a traveler. She said, I can't even go to Disneyland.
Right.
Because I don't know if I'm going to, and you need a bathroom. And the postcard was from Disneyland. Yeah. So
like, I can go now.
I can do, and then I kind of lost, I lost touch with her, but yet I don't know what happened. I heard from other homeopaths, them having that experience. Something happened in that interaction.
That energy exchange.
Right. And I don't feel that I'm a healer. I'm a facilitator. I'm a witnesser with the patient. There's this, the space is given, the person heals themselves. The remedy assists the person in their healing because you're giving them the similar. So
Yeah.
maybe, something that you said, Herb, is as though in that interchange with me, that first appointment, that something, her talking, that energy, see, there's the woo-woo, came back to her.
Right.
Who knows? But something happened, and who am I or us to say, know what it was? But it was to kind of just, okay, let's see what happens with the healing. And that's why I said, well, let's not rock the boat. Let's not give the remedy.
Right.
And she was well, she was good. So
So
I don't
one
tell
thing
that
sometimes people talk about in Western medicine is the placebo
the
effect.
placebo.
Yeah.
And so there's also another effect called the nocebo effect. And that's kind of what happened to me. I got so disenchanted with Western medicine that it didn't matter what they gave me, it didn't work because I stopped believing.
Ah,
And once I started working with people who listened, who gave me a sense that they cared more about me than my money and the pills that they were giving me, that's when I finally started to heal. And I did still require some medicines and some things, but it was that the nocebo effect in the allopathic just like hit me like a ton of bricks, and it just working.
I've not heard that term before. Nocebo. Is that how I said it? Nocebo?
Yeah. So like the placebo, and it's like nocebo. Yeah.
Nocebo. Right, right.
It doesn't matter what you give me, it's not going to work because I don't believe you anymore.
Right, right.
So you are a caring individual, and the stuff that you have does help. And so just knowing that you care and moving forward is a wonderful medicine, as well as the remedies that you give. So
right. And it's also the resonating with someone. I mean, I have to say there was someone years ago who didn't feel comfortable with me. I mean, there are people like that. So it is, that we all, who we feel comfortable with. I did want to add that I agree with you that Western medicine, like putting together a bone, setting a bone, but there are homeopathic remedies that can be helpful along with that.
yes,
Right.
That can help with that healing too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, as the bones and stuff start to mend, that binding and everything that
a lot of natural stuff that your body is doing along. Yeah, and if you
in fact, it's a plant. It's symphytum, and it's called bone knit.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, no.
That's amazing. That is
yeah. I mean, it's amazing of what we have on our planet of Earth of that, and so many of substances have been made into homeopathic remedies, and even sunshine has been, mobile phone has been made into a homeopathic remedy, so it's like, and they go through when something has been made into a remedy, they go through approving. So they've taken given it to a group of people and get how did they respond to taking this, and it's sort of managed, and then that all of that information is compiled, and so we have references of immateria medicos, they're called, of description of the remedies broken out into the different parts of the body and the emotions, and there's also what we call the repertory, which is like an indexing.
Right.
So I mean there are ways to sort out and organize this information because it's a lot of information. I mean, I always say that homeopathy is very simple in what it is. It's like cures like, it's very elegant. There's a lot of information.
Yeah, and you guys have the research and the data behind, what
there is. Right. Which FDA might not necessarily know that, but there is.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. If you had one more thing that you want to tell families and parents, what would that be? What would that be, that last bit of wisdom that you would like to give to them?
Well, the first thing is that you have choice. You have a choice. You can choose. And as a parent, and I think I said this already, your child, your family, and even if you don't know exactly, but you have an inkling or something isn't right, but you follow that intuitiveness, that gut feeling about your child, about your family, and seek out, help. If something doesn't feel right, seek out what does, and then follow that. Because I will say that to people who call me, you know, obviously, as I said, I'm biased with homeopathy.
Right.
Yet if it doesn't feel right to you, or this isn't what you want to do now, then follow that, you know. You have a choice, and to listen to yourself. Yeah.
I
And to
love
your child, which I'm thinking you
Yeah.
are, you know.
Yeah. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on to our show, because Vibrant Family Education is all about that. Thinking about the choices, thinking about that, you know, there isn't a one size necessarily that fits all.
Right.
And some of our experts, even though they're very knowledgeable, isn't quite a right fit for you and your family. So it goes for this kind of medicine, taking care of
Exactly.
your family, that intuition, it goes along with education as well. Some education doesn't fit you and your family. So make some investment, find some coaching, find an expert, find somebody who can help you out, and really make that choice for the betterment of your family.
Right, right. And I think I have told you, I offer a get acquainted call, you know, complimentary. I'm always happy to talk to people and about homeopathy, and then, you know, deciding whether they want to make an appointment or not. It you know, obviously it would be nice, but do what's right for you. But to know that there are other things that you can do, and then just, you know, who knows, down the road, you might do something that you've already done research for, but this isn't the right timing at this point.
And I've run into parents who really don't want to get their kids on medicines. They don't want to get their kids on pills, but they don't know that there is more out there. So they try stuff on their own.
Yeah.
So for any of those parents out there, I encourage you to get a hold of Pamela. And if they do want to get a hold of you, we will put them in our show notes, but
Great.
so that we can hear it from you. What is the best way to get a hold of you? And if our parents are looking for this kind to follow you, how can they get a hold?
Well, my website I'll tell you that, is www.homeopathy. I probably should spell it right. HOMEOPATHYTO2 heal HEAL.com. I do write a newsletter every other week, and so you can subscribe, or there are, I think, links to it on my website. I also have it on WordPress. It's the same. And then my email is pam@homeopathytoheal.com. And then my phone number, it's a landline. It's 619-461-4602. Is that right? I'm sorry. Scratch that. It's 619-461-2584. And again, I'm very happy to talk to people. There is also, it's called the National Center for Homeopathy, which is an American organization of homeopaths, plus gives you information. And I mentioned that book, Impossible Cure, by Amy Lansky. That's LANSKY. So, I mean, it's always good to educate yourself, and I'm happy to talk to people, again, even if it's for information, to know that you have choices and possibilities, and then see what you want to do. I have found that when a family member, you know, you look about when a family member is not doing well, a child, everything is focused on that child. And as they're doing better, the whole family starts to do better.
Exactly.
And also maybe somebody else in that family now, they can be focused, they can get some focusing. So what you're doing is, by helping one member of the family, is you're also helping the whole family.
I love it.
You know, again, that's that totality in a way, you know.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Heal the whole family, bring them all together, and make life better for a lot of people.
Right. And to trust yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. And like we said, the information is in the show notes.
Great.
She would love to talk with all of our families and everything. Thank you for joining us this week on Bringing Education Home.
Thank you.
I would like to say that I can sense your heart. I can see how passionate you are about this subject. So I would highly recommend that you actually reach out to her if you are at all, if you have any questions, if something's not working out for you and you need to try something new. Let's reach out to Pam and let's see what we can get accomplished together. So thank you very much for coming forward with us today.
Oh, I want to thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you for your interest and I mean, it was more than interest. You really want to know, and I so appreciate our conversation. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome.
Yeah.
All right, families and friends, enjoy the show and look for a new one coming up soon. Bye for now.